story based on court, she strikes back and turns the tables. In a courtroom in Atlanta, Georgia, what began as a routine pre-trial hearing quickly spiraled into a shocking display of disrespect, power, and ultimate justice. The defendant, Lieutenant Commander Maya Jefferson, a decorated Black Navy SEAL with over a decade of service and multiple overseas deployments, stood calmly at the defense table. She was present not as a criminal, but as a witness in a civil rights case against a local police department. Her presence in uniform was a silent testament to her character and commitment to the country. But for one local officer, that wasn't enough. Officer Karen Whitmore, a 15-year veteran of the force, had been summoned to testify in the same case, one that involved allegations of racial profiling and excessive force. Jefferson had been called as an expert witness after she intervened in a public altercation where Whitmore was accused of targeting a young black teen without cause. Tensions were high, but no one expected what came next. As Jefferson walked past Whitmore in the courtroom aisle, a comment was muttered under Whitmore's breath. Something about people wearing uniforms they don't deserve. Jefferson didn't react. But then, in an unthinkable move, Officer Whitmore deliberately extended her leg, tripping Jefferson mid-step. The courtroom gasped as the Navy SEAL stumbled, but she didn't fall. In one fluid, almost instinctive motion, Jefferson regained her balance, turned sharply, and in a calm but powerful voice said, "You may be used to intimidating civilians, but I'm not one of them." Judge Anita Morales immediately called for order. Cameras inside the courtroom caught the moment Whitmore smirked, until Jefferson presented her full credentials and the incident was reviewed live by the judge and jury. But that wasn't the end. Jefferson's attorney requested an immediate review of courtroom footage which showed the deliberate trip. Within minutes, Whitmore was held in contempt of court. But the real twist came when Jefferson took the stand, not only to testify about the original civil rights case, but to speak directly about the deeper issue of systemic disrespect shown to black service members and citizens alike. Her testimony was powerful, pointed, and deeply personal. "Service doesn't come with a skin color," she said, "but discrimination sure does." By the end of the hearing, Whitmore was escorted out, this time in handcuffs for violating courtroom conduct and interfering with a federal witness. The judge commended Jefferson's composure and courage under pressure. The clip of the incident went viral, with millions praising Jefferson not just for defending herself, but for standing tall in a moment meant to bring her down. In turning the tape, a message louder than any verdict. Respect is not optional. Would you like this formatted? Fallout and the spotlight. In the days following the explosive courtroom confrontation, Lieutenant Commander Maya Jefferson found herself at the center of a national media storm. What was meant to be a quiet legal proceeding turned into a public reckoning about race, respect, and the treatment of black women in uniform. Social media erupted with support. Hashtags like "Stand with Jefferson, Black Women Serve Too," and "Justice in Uniform" trended nationwide. Veterans organizations, civil rights groups, and even sitting members of Congress issued statements of solidarity. The Navy officially released a statement confirming Jefferson's record: 4 combat deployments, 2 Bronze Stars, and a spotless service record. But Maya didn't chase fame. She used the spotlight. Within a week, she appeared on several major news networks, not to talk about the trip or the attack, but to highlight a broader issue: how military service doesn't shield black Americans from discrimination. "There's a myth that the uniform makes you equal," she said in a televised interview. "But the truth is, some people will never see past your skin, no matter what you've done for this country." Back in Atlanta, Officer Whitmore was suspended without pay and later faced an internal affairs investigation for not only her courtroom actions, but multiple past complaints that had been quietly dismissed. The city opened an inquiry into how those complaints had been handled. Meanwhile, Jefferson received invitations to speak at military academies and leadership conferences. She turned most of them down, except one. She accepted an invite to speak at a high school in the same Atlanta neighborhood where the original police incident occurred. Standing before a gym packed with young people, she delivered a message both simple and powerful. Strength isn't how hard you hit, It's how you stand back up and speak up when someone tries to knock you down." Her words didn't just echo through that gym, they echoed across the country. And somewhere in that crowd, a young black girl saw something that day, something stronger than a uniform, a role model. Would you like to continue this? Months passed, but the impact of what happened in that courtroom didn't fade. It deepened. Lieutenant Commander Maya Jefferson had returned to active duty, but her life would never be the same. The civil rights case she testified in was ultimately to favor of the plaintiff, the young black teen who had been wrongfully detained. The court awarded damages, and the police department was ordered to implement new training focused on de-escalation, cultural sensitivity, and the treatment of minorities. Jefferson's testimony had been a key turning point in the trial. But something unexpected followed. A bipartisan bill, the Jefferson Justice Act, was introduced in Congress. The legislation proposed protections for service members acting as civilian witnesses in legal cases, as well as mandatory bias training for officers who interact with military personnel. The bill gained rapid support, not just because of politics, but because of the clarity of her example. Jefferson, meanwhile, remained grounded. She rejected offers to write a memoir or star in a documentary, instead quietly mentoring young women in the Navy and volunteering at local youth centers when off duty. But the story wasn't done with her. One day, as she left a community event in plain clothes, a teenage girl approached her with a nervous smile. She was the sister of the boy Jefferson had defended in court. The girl handed her a small pin, shaped like a trident, the symbol of the Navy SEALs. "My brother said you were the first person who ever saw him like he mattered," she said. "Now I want to serve too." Jefferson took the pin, eyes full but steady. She knew then that all the pain, the tension, the public glare, it had led to something greater. She hadn't just turned the tables, she had set them for the next generation. From witness to warrior for justice. 1 year after the courtroom incident, Maya Jefferson was promoted to commander and assigned to a special advisory role at the Pentagon. But her mission wasn't just military anymore. It was cultural. She was tasked with helping design policy that would bridge the divide between law enforcement and military communities, especially for people of color. Her name had become more than a headline. It had become a movement. Project Sentinel, a non-profit founded in her honor by veterans and civil rights activists, launched mentorship programs in over 30 cities across the U.S., connecting at-risk youth with veterans from diverse backgrounds. Jefferson served on the board, but rarely sought attention. She believed in the mission, not the spotlight. Media outlets dubbed her the steel spine in uniform, but those closest to her just called her Maya. She still carried herself with the calm intensity of someone trained to face storms and trained to rise from them. On the anniversary of the courtroom confrontation, she was invited back to Atlanta, this time to deliver a keynote at a public ceremony hosted by the city. Officer Whitmore, who had resigned from the force, was not in attendance, but her actions remained a cautionary tale in police academies across the country. During her speech, Jefferson said something that was later etched into a bronze plaque at the courthouse. "Respect can't be demanded by a badge or a title. It's earned by action and defended by courage." The crowd gave her a standing ovation, and as Maya looked out across the audience, seeing veterans, students, officers, and community leaders standing side by side, she knew something important had shifted. The system hadn't changed overnight, but now it had no choice but to listen, because one woman in a uniform had refused to stay silent. And in doing so, she didn't just strike back, she moved the nation forward.